When Obamacare takes full effect, the president will appoint a 15-member board called the Independent Payment Advisory Board, or IPAB. The unelected board will have the power to cut $1 trillion out of Medicare however it sees fit. 2 years ago, people who called attention to this provision referred to the board as a death panel, and they were criticized, vilified, and dismissed.
The only death panels, Ms. Palin, are the figurative ones you have inspired with such irresponsible, dangerous, facile, vile hate speech. The death of common sense.
If a patient wanted to have a Medicare consultation about end-of-life issues, they could have it at their request, and the doctor would get reimbursed for it. No panel.
But there was a provision in the bill that talks about a board that would decide the most effective measures to provide health care for people.
Some of people's concerns have grown out of bogus claims spread by those whose only agenda is to kill reform at any cost. The best example is the claim made not just by radio and cable talk show hosts, but by prominent politicians, that we plan to set up panels of bureaucrats with the power to kill off senior citizens. Now, such a charge would be laughable if it weren't so cynical and irresponsible. It is a lie, plain and simple.
Flash forward to 2011.
And we will slow the growth of Medicare costs by strengthening an independent commission of doctors, nurses, medical experts, and consumers who will look at all the evidence and recommend the best ways to reduce unnecessary spending while protecting access to the services that seniors need.
To be fair, when conservatives talked about death panels 2 years ago, they envisioned bureaucrats denying treatment on a case-by-case basis. The Independent Payment Advisory Board will not provide such personalized evaluations.
These are a board of 15 people the president will be appointing in 2012. These 15 people will be in charge of overseeing Medicare and coming up with cost cut ideas, price controlling ideas. They will decide, and then their reforms go into place. If Congress doesn't like it, Congress has to replace those Medicare cuts with other ones within Medicare. And so the system is designed to take the decision-making authority away from the legislative branch into the executive branch to these political appointees by the president, and then they make all of these decisions.
If we're wrong, and Medicare costs rise faster than we expect, then this approach will give the Independent Commission the authority to make additional savings by further improving Medicare.
That's right. Now that this new IPAB has been set up, the president said, well, if $500 billion isn't enough, let's do another $500 billion. In one speech, he moved the growth rate of Medicare, which is growing at an unsustainable rate, and we all agree with that. He basically said, I'm just going to have my bureaucrats just cut another $500 billion out of it, and that will, voila, solve the problem. No, that means the government gets to decide how care is to be delivered in this country. And we just don't think that works. First of all, monopolies don't work well for consumers, whether it's a corporate monopoly, an insurance company, or a government monopoly. And so we just believe in a consumer-directed system and a patient-centered system. The individual is the nucleus of our economy and our society, not the government. And so it is a philosophical difference.
So this board could cut $1 trillion out of Medicare without any oversight? But this White House video released 2 years ago said there wouldn't be a panel in Washington making decisions affecting medical treatment.
The only people who should be deciding my end-of-life counseling are my children, my doctor, and myself, not some unknown panel in Washington. That whole theory and that whole thing with healthcare is so horrendous that it's worse than anything I've seen in other countries.
Well, Demi, no panel in Washington is going to make decisions about your treatment. You are absolutely right that treatment decisions for you should be made by you and your family and your doctor.
You won't find too many reporters calling the White House out on this. Instead, they actually appear to be advocating for the things people feared would come out of Obamacare.
Don't you think that the issue that nobody really wants to touch, though, is how expensive end-of-life care has been? And whether you call it rationing or something else, at some point, we really need to get serious at looking at, does a 100-year-old need dialysis?
The question then is, should that be something the government decides?
Well,
or that should be something I think the family should decide. I really don't think the government should put itself in the position of deciding how someone's end-of-life care occurs. That is a different philosophical disagreement. We don't think the government should have that kind of power. We think things like end-of-life care should be something that should be made by families, by patients and their families that are informed in consultation with their doctors. That is not something we should give a power to the government to do. This is consistent with the president's notion of healthcare reform, which is not have an individual consumer-directed system or a patient-centered system, but have a bureaucratically driven, government-run type of a system where we anoint or elect smart people in the federal government, a handful, to make all of these decisions in this enormously impactful sector of our economy. That's the one idea he's given us that he added to the top of the pile, which is basically take Medicare's growth, reduce it, and have these board of 15 people figure out how to do that.
That is why Republicans in Congress say it is important to repeal Obamacare before the IPAB can be fully implemented. For the MacIver Institute, I'm Bill Osmulski.